The power goes out, and at first, nothing feels wrong. The lights cut. The house goes quiet. The heater clicks once, then doesn't come back on. You stand there for a moment, waiting for the familiar hum to return. It usually does. Storms pass. Crews fix things. Power outages are temporary. That assumption is the first mistake. The temperature inside hasn't changed yet. Not enough to matter. Your breath isn't visible. Your hands aren't numb. The cold feels distant, theoretical, something you'll deal with later. You grab a blanket, maybe a hoodie. You tell yourself you'll check on it in an hour. This is how winter kills people. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but politely. Modern life trains you to believe cold is optional. That warmth is a setting, not a condition. You've never had to think about heat as something fragile. It's always been there, waiting behind a wall switch. So when it disappears, your brain doesn't register danger. It registers inconvenience. Outside, the temperature keeps dropping. Inside, the house begins leaking heat immediately. Through windows, through walls, through the floor beneath your feet. You don't feel it yet because buildings cool slowly. Just slow enough to trick you into thinking you're safe. You are not. Cold doesn't announce itself with pain. It creeps. It drains. It lowers your body temperature a fraction at a time while you're distracted doing normal things. Scrolling your phone, pacing the room, convincing yourself this will be over soon. People imagine hypothermia as something that happens outdoors. Snowstorms, wind, exposed skin. That's comforting because it creates distance. But cold indoors is more dangerous. Indoors, you relax. You sit, you lie down. You stop moving. And movement is heat. Your house, without power, is no longer shelter. It's a heat sink, a box that slowly equalizes with the outside world. The bigger the space, the faster it steals warmth from you. The higher the ceilings, the worse it gets. You don't notice when your fingers stiffen slightly, or when your feet stop feeling warm, or when your thoughts slow just enough to delay action. That's the second mistake. Cold doesn't need you to panic. It needs you to wait. Every winter blackout tells the same story. People assume they have time. They assume discomfort will come before danger. They assume sleep is safe. It isn't. By the time you realize the cold is a problem, your body is already behind. Your judgment is already compromised, and the decisions you should have made early, before the house cooled, before your energy dropped, now feel harder, heavier, less urgent than they should. Cold rewards preparation and punishes delay. And the deadliest part is this: the cold you don't take seriously feels exactly like a normal evening, right up until it doesn't. This is the moment that matters. Not when you're freezing, but when you still feel fine. Because once winter decides to take the heat from you, it doesn't give it back. You assume the house will protect you. That's reasonable. It always has. Walls, roof, doors, windows, a solid structure between you and the cold. From the outside, it looks like shelter. From the inside, it feels familiar, safe, permanent. Without power, it's none of those things. Modern homes aren't designed to hold heat. They're designed to circulate it. Forced air, radiant systems, constant movement. Warmth pushed through ducts and vents to compensate for how thin and inefficient everything else really is. When the power dies, the illusion collapses. The walls don't insulate the way you think they do. Most of the materials are optimized for cost and speed, not thermal retention. Drywall, studs, insulation with gaps you've never noticed because the heater was always doing the work. Now the heater's gone. Windows become liabilities. Even double-paned glass bleeds heat relentlessly. Curtains help less than you expect. Cold radiates inward and warmth leaks out, faster than your body can replace it. Floors are worse. Cold sinks. It pulls heat straight out of your feet, your legs, your core. Tile, hardwood, concrete, surfaces designed to look clean and modern become thermal drains. The colder they get, the more aggressively they steal warmth from you. You start gravitating upward. Couch, bed, chair. That instinct feels right? It isn't. Heat rises, but it doesn't stay. It pools briefly, then spreads, then escapes through ceilings and attics that were never meant to function without active heating. High ceilings become cold reservoirs. Open floor plans, once a luxury, turn into vast spaces your body can't warm. Rooms you never thought about start mattering. Exterior walls, corners, hallways, stairwells. All of them act like channels, pulling warmth away from wherever you're sitting. You can feel it if you stop moving long enough. A draft you can't locate. A chill that doesn't respond to layers. That's because the house isn't holding heat anymore. It's surrendering it. Older buildings sometimes fare better. Smaller rooms, thicker walls, lower ceilings. Modern homes prioritize airflow, light, openness. Great when systems are running, deadly when they're not. You don't realize how dependent you've been until dependence disappears. Your breath isn't visible yet. Your hands still work. But the temperature inside is sliding toward equilibrium with the outside world, minute by minute, degree by degree. The house isn't protecting you from winter. It's introducing you to it slowly. This is why people die indoors during winter blackouts. Not because they were exposed, but because they trusted the structure around them to do a job it was never designed to do alone. A powerless house is not shelter, it's a container. And unless you change how you use it, how you move inside it, where you exist within it, how you interact with the space, it will quietly drain heat from you until your body can't keep up. The cold doesn't have to break in. It's already inside. This is when people reach for fixes. Not principles, not behavior, devices. You light candles, plug in a space heater, drag out the fireplace tools. Someone mentions a generator. Another person suggests running the oven for a bit, just to take the edge off. These ideas feel productive, mechanical, familiar. They feel like solutions. They aren't. The problem with heaters is simple. They don't change the system. They just inject heat into a space that's actively leaking it. You're pouring warmth into a container that can't hold it, then wondering why the temperature never stabilizes. Space heaters pull massive power. When the grid is down, they're useless. When generators are running, they drain fuel faster than anyone plans for. Hours turn into minutes, minutes into silence, and once the heat source stops, the temperature drops faster than before. Fireplaces feel better, older, reliable. They're deceptive. Fireplaces draw air. They pull cold air in from every crack in the house to feed the flame, replacing warm air with freezing drafts you can't see. Unless the structure was designed for it, a fireplace often makes the house colder overall, while giving you the illusion of warmth right in front of it. Generators are worse. They promise independence, control, a return to normal. Fuel runs out. Noise carries. Carbon monoxide builds silently. People put generators too close, vent them wrong, or run them indoors just long enough to feel safe. The warmth feels earned, temporary, comforting. Then, people don't wake up. This is where winter survival myths quietly turn lethal. Devices encourage you to stay in place, to hold ground in structures that are already failing thermally. They delay adaptation by offering comfort instead of correction. Every hour you rely on them is an hour you don't change behavior. And behavior is the only thing that matters. People trust tools because tools are external. You turn them on, they do the work. You don't have to think differently. You don't have to move differently. You don't have to accept that the environment has changed. So you cling to machines that were never meant to operate alone. When they fail, and they always do, you're colder than when you started. Exhausted. Behind the curve. Now forced to adapt with less energy, less clarity, and fewer options. This is why backup heat kills people. Not because heat is bad, but because false heat delays real survival. Real warmth isn't generated, it's retained. It comes from reducing exposure, reducing space, reducing air movement, reducing energy loss. From shaping your environment to work with your body instead of against it. Heaters don't teach that. Generators don't encourage it. Fire doesn't fix it. They distract you from the truth that winter doesn't care what equipment you own. It only cares how much heat you lose and how fast. The cold doesn't punish ignorance immediately. It waits until your fuel is gone, your devices are silent, and your confidence has already cost you energy you can't replace. By the time people realize machines won't save them, the house is colder, the night is longer, and the margin for error is gone. Winter doesn't defeat people who lack tools. It defeats people who trusted them too much. Cold doesn't attack you. It convinces you to stop defending yourself. That's the part people misunderstand. They think hypothermia is violent, shaking, teeth chattering, obvious distress, something you'd recognize immediately and react to. Most of the time it isn't. Cold works quietly, through subtraction. It takes a little heat, then a little more, then just enough that your body starts making compromises you don't notice. At first your hands lose dexterity. Buttons feel smaller. Phones slip. You tell yourself it's annoying, not dangerous. Your body is already redirecting heat away from your fingers to protect your core. That protection has a cost. Your feet follow, then your legs. Then fine motor control fades just enough that small tasks feel exhausting. You sit down more. You move less. Rest feels logical. That's when the real danger starts. As your core temperature drops, your brain changes how it thinks. Not dramatically, subtly. Urgency dulls. Concern softens. You stop feeling alarmed by things that should worry you. This isn't panic. It's calm. A false calm that tells you everything is manageable, that you can deal with it later, that sleep will help. Hypothermia doesn't feel like dying. It feels like getting comfortable at the wrong time. People underestimate this because they expect pain. Cold doesn't hurt the way heat does. It numbs. It blunts sensation. It removes feedback. By the time shivering slows or stops entirely, you're already in trouble, and your ability to recognize that fact is compromised. That's why people make irrational decisions in the cold. They stop layering. They stop moving. They decide not to bother fixing a draft. They lie down just for a minute. That minute stretches. Your heart slows. Your breathing becomes shallow. Muscles weaken. Your body is conserving energy because it believes resources are scarce, and it's right. But conservation without intervention is surrender. Indoors, this process is more dangerous because there's no obvious threat. No snow piling up. No wind howling through trees. Just a quiet room getting colder while you sit inside it, waiting for something to change. Nothing will. Cold deaths indoors rarely look dramatic. They look peaceful. Someone seated. Someone lying down. Someone who simply didn't wake up. Later, people say the same thing every time. They didn't even look cold. That's because by the end, the body stops fighting. The most lethal part of cold exposure isn't freezing temperatures. It's decision degradation. The slow erosion of judgment that convinces you everything is fine right up until you can no longer act. Winter doesn't overpower you. It waits for you to power down yourself. This is why understanding cold matters more than fearing it. If you don't recognize how it actually kills, through comfort, through stillness, through delayed response, you won't see the danger until your body has already made too many trade-offs. Cold doesn't need force. It just needs time. And if you don't interrupt the process early, it will finish the job quietly, efficiently, and without warning. At some point, the truth becomes unavoidable. The house isn't warming up. The devices didn't fix it. Waiting didn't help. And that's when most people realize they've been thinking about heat the wrong way. Heat isn't something you make. It's something you keep. Your body is already producing warmth. Constantly. Even now. The problem isn't lack of heat. It's loss. And winter wins by accelerating that loss faster than you replace it. This is where behavior matters. Every movement you make either conserves heat or wastes it. Every space you occupy either traps warmth or lets it escape. Every habit you fall back on was designed for a powered world, and many of them quietly work against you now. Big rooms feel comfortable, spacious, familiar. They're also impossible to warm with a human body. Open spaces dilute heat. High ceilings steal it. Air circulates when you don't want it to. The more volume you occupy, the faster your warmth disappears into it. Cold doesn't need to touch you directly, it just needs room to spread. So people do the wrong thing. They pace, they wander, they shift locations, chasing comfort that never stabilizes. Movement without purpose burns calories without retaining heat. Rest without insulation drains warmth without replenishing it. Heat isn't about activity, it's about containment. The body survives cold by shrinking its world, reducing exposed surface area, limiting airflow, creating layers of still air that slow heat loss. Animals understand this instinctively. Humans used to. Modern life trained it out of you. You've been taught that comfort comes from openness, fresh air, space, light. All of that becomes liability in the cold. Drafts are enemies. Empty volume is theft. Every crack, every unused corner, every bit of air you don't control works against you. Behavior changes first. Equipment comes later, if at all. Where you sit matters. How long you sit matters. What's beneath you matters. What surrounds you matters. Even your posture matters. Cold punishes indecision. Every time you move without improving insulation or containment, you pay a cost. Every time you delay consolidating warmth, you bleed energy you won't get back. This is why people who have supplies still die in winter outages. They never change behavior. They trust objects to compensate for habits that no longer work. They wait for heat instead of restructuring their environment to preserve it. They act like they're uncomfortable, not endangered. Survival warmth doesn't feel like comfort. It feels restrained, minimal, intentional. It's choosing fewer spaces instead of more, fewer movements instead of constant motion, stillness with insulation instead of activity in open air. It's understanding that heat is fragile, and once lost, expensive to replace. The people who make it through cold outages aren't tougher. They're quieter. They stop treating warmth like a luxury and start treating it like a resource, something to guard, something to budget, something to stop wasting before it's gone. Winter doesn't care what you own. It only cares how much heat you let escape. And once you understand that, the fight shifts, not against the cold outside, but against the habits inside that are helping it win. Night changes everything. During the day, you can move, adjust, distract yourself. You notice the cold, but you can answer it with motion, with tasks, with light. Night removes those options. Darkness compresses choices, and fatigue pushes you toward whatever feels familiar. That's when people make the most dangerous decision of the blackout. They go to bed, not because it's smart, but because it's routine. They choose the bedroom because it's where sleep is supposed to happen, because the bed is there, because that's what they've always done when they're tired and cold and waiting for morning. The problem is, most bedrooms are terrible places to survive winter without power. They're usually on exterior walls, closer to windows, farther from shared heat, elevated, where warm air escapes upward and disappears into ceilings and attics that bleed warmth relentlessly. Bedrooms are designed for comfort in a powered world, not for heat retention when systems fail. Beds feel safe. They're not. Mattresses pull heat downward. Frames lift you into colder air. Blankets trap warmth on top while your body loses it underneath. You feel covered, but you're leaking heat from every surface you can't see. Floors matter more than people realize. Cold doesn't rise. It waits. It pools. It settles. It climbs slowly into anything resting on it. Sleeping directly above cold surfaces drains heat hour after hour, even when you think you're insulated. Then there's space. Most people sleep alone in rooms built for movement, not containment. Air volume becomes the enemy. The larger the room, the more heat your body has to fight just to maintain equilibrium. You don't warm the space cools you. That's why people wake up worse instead of better. They went to sleep cold and woke up colder, weaker, slower, confused about how the night took so much from them without feeling dramatic. Some don't wake up at all. Cold doesn't need exposure. It needs time. Sleep gives it that time, and exhaustion helps it along. Fatigue lowers resistance. It slows shivering. It dulls awareness. It convinces you rest is recovery, when in the cold, rest without insulation is surrender. People imagine danger happens while they're awake. In winter outages, danger peaks while you're asleep, because you're not correcting drafts, not adjusting layers, not noticing temperature shifts, not responding to early warning signs. The body keeps losing heat, and the brain keeps prioritizing rest over action until action isn't possible. This is why sleeping location matters more than blankets. Where you sleep determines airflow, surface contact, heat loss, energy drain. It determines whether the night costs you a little warmth or everything you have left. The people who survive winter outages don't sleep where they normally do. They abandon habit. They choose spaces that minimize volume, maximize containment, and reduce exposure, even if those spaces feel uncomfortable, strange, or wrong by modern standards. Comfort is not safety, and the night doesn't care what feels normal. It only cares where your heat goes when you stop paying attention, and whether there's enough left when morning comes. Night one is when confidence quietly kills people. Not panic, not fear, confidence. You made it through the evening. You're still functional, still thinking clearly enough to believe you've got this. The cold hasn't overwhelmed you yet, and that survival creates a dangerous assumption that what you're doing is working. It might not be. The first mistake is isolation. People separate themselves without thinking. They retreat into their own rooms, their own spaces, their own routines. Privacy feels comforting. Independence feels strong. In reality, isolation multiplies heat loss and removes the only natural buffer humans have ever relied on in cold environments: shared warmth. Cold punishes solitude. The second mistake is unnecessary movement. Pacing, shifting locations, standing up repeatedly to warm up. Every movement burns calories without guaranteeing heat retention. Energy spent without insulation is energy lost forever. People exhaust themselves. trying to feel warmer instead of restructuring their environment to stay warm. Movement feels proactive. It's often waste. Then there's alcohol. A drink feels like relief. Warmth spreads. Muscles relax. Shivering eases. The sensation is immediate and convincing, which is why it's so dangerous. Alcohol widens blood vessels, pulling heat away from your core and bleeding it into the air faster. You feel warmer as your body actually gets colder. That mistake ends nights. Another killer is overconfidence in layers. People pile blankets on top of themselves and ignore everything beneath and around them. Heat escapes downward and sideways long before it escapes upward. Soft insulation without containment traps comfort, not warmth. You feel covered and continue losing heat anyway. Then there's the worst habit of all: waiting. Waiting for the power to come back. Waiting for morning. Waiting for the cold to peak. Waiting turns a dynamic situation into a passive one. Cold doesn't plateau. It compounds. Every hour indoors without intervention lowers the baseline you're starting from. People think the first night is the hardest. It isn't. The first night is the warning. The second night is the test. But mistakes made on night one determine whether you're capable of handling the nights that follow. Cold doesn't require catastrophic errors. It stacks small ones. A draft left unchecked. A room too large. A surface too cold. A decision delayed just long enough. By the time you realize something is wrong, the margin for correction is gone. The people who die in winter outages don't look reckless afterward. They look normal, comfortable, like they were resting. That's what makes these mistakes repeat every year. In every blackout, in every cold snap, the cold doesn't exploit weakness, it exploits habit. Night one punishes people who assume survival looks like endurance instead of adjustment, who believe toughness matters more than efficiency, who trust comfort over conservation. Winter doesn't need you to make a big mistake. It just needs you to make a few small ones, and keep making them long enough for the night to finish what it started.